love and light, love and light. I don't want to look at the parts of myself that is really toxic and ruins things for myself and makes it harder for me to exist because that stuff is hard. Do you relate? Welcome to the playground. I'm Shanila, and let's talk about shadow work one-on-one for beginners. So listen, if you are somebody who's even considering this language around shadow work, I'm going to make an assumption that you're starting to face parts of your healing journey that's a little bit hard. And you thought it was going to be all love and light, and you heal through this, and you're flowy, and you're dancing at the beach, and you're doing all these crystals and things like that, and it's so amazing. And all of a sudden, you're like, mom and dad issues and abandonment issues and rejection issues and self-love issues and boundary issues. All of these different things are just like percolating and coming back up from the surface, and you're just like, it's not as easy and as prancy as I thought it was going to be. Well, welcome to shadow work. This is the part of your healing journey where it gets a little bit challenging, and for many people, when this challenge comes, what you're going to do is you're going to run the other way. You're like, oh, hard, this is hard. It was so nice to go to sound bath, and it was so nice to put crystals on my body, and it was so nice to do X, Y, and Z different things. But now you're getting to the nitty gritty core of yourself, that is the emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, energetic healing that is starting to happen within you. So for beginners, and this is not necessarily like a beginner terminology, but when you're starting to feel this energy into shadow work, the first inclination is to run the other way. You're saying, this is hard for me. Things have started to come up. Things I didn't know that was a problem or an issue, or kind of the fundamental reasons of why it is that I do the things and the way that I behave and the way that I show up and my attitudes and the patterns that I exhibit in life has to do with these core things that I felt in the past. And so that becomes so uncomfortable because maybe you didn't actually even know all of these different things were the root of why it is that you behave and think and act the way that you do today in your relationships, in your business, in your partnerships, and all the different things that you're participating in. You might not even have awareness of that. So part of your healing journey is not just healing through the things that are in your conscious mind. It's also about healing through the things that are in your subconscious mind. Sub meaning underneath your consciousness. Imagining that everything that you're aware of, like on your day-to-day, the things that you're aware of, things that you're doing, things that you're behaving, things where, you have a very conscious thought process. That's your conscious mind, right? Things that you're aware of. Subconscious, underneath your consciousness, are the different things that you don't really have an awareness of. These are the behaviors and drivers of your behaviors and thought processes and the stories that you have that are underneath your awareness. But what happens is that when you're starting to do your healing work, whether it is through therapy, whether it's through breath work, whether it is through dancing and movement and embodiment, the list can go on and on. Different people's healing is going to look different. Your healing is going to look different than your friends versus mine versus, right? It's going to look different. So however it is that you're doing it, you're going to approach a part of it where the subconscious mind is going to take leadership. So all the things that are kind of stored away in your energetic body, in your stories back in your mind in the past, start to resurface. And so shadow work is like that dark part of it. So it's called shadow because it's like the dark part of it. But I kind of want to reframe this for us because if there's a shadow side, there must also be a sun side too. Right? The bright side is the part of you that is doing the active healing. It's the one who's going to the classes. You're going to your courses and certifications and your mentorships and programs and all these things. Is the very active side. The next part of that is the rest and integration side, and that is arguably where most of your healing actually happens. More of your healing happens in the stillness and the quietness where you're not allowing other influences to take over what it is that needs to get processed within you. So maybe one time I'll draw you a chart or whatever, but basically if you imagine your journey as an up and down kind of ebb and flow, okay? The up journey is the shadow, is the sun side. This is the part of you that's like active, doing, very outwardly healing. At a certain point, what goes up must come down, right? So then this curve comes back down, and that downward feels like you're moving behind. Feels like you're regressing, feels like you're going back, feels like, oh my gosh, I did all this healing, I did all this ding, 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 ding. And then now I feel like I'm regressing back to the past. And for you, if this is not something you're aware of, the up and down and the ebb and flow of life and the ebb and flow of healing just in general, you're going to be really shocked that it's here. You're like, oh, I was on this upward momentum and now I have to be quiet and let it rest and integrate and settle. And the energetic has to build its new neural memories within my physical body. Yeah, that's the part. And so oftentimes when you're doing kind of quantum leaping work or manifestation work, a lot of the work around that practices bypassing the shadow. It requires you to jump, make a jump to the new version of you that is totally healed, totally love and light, and has this amazing outlook and feels amazing and feels great. But sometimes those things are not long lasting. They might be short-term obtainable, but sometimes they're not long lasting because the energetics that are really informed by the subconscious mind doesn't get a chance to train. It doesn't get a chance to solidify in the body, not just in your mind, but in the physical body. Knowing that your physical, mental, spiritual, energetic body, they're all talking to each other all the time, right? It's not like your thoughts are just here and your emotions are here. You have neural pathways that are connecting all of these different pathways all the time. Everything is informing each other. And so when you get to this part of yourself where, the hard things come up, the things that feel more challenging, I want you to think about it in terms of shadow play. It's like, how cool is that something that you weren't aware of just got brought up to your awareness. So you can approach it two ways. One's like, oh no, like big bad childhood issues. Or you can be like, oh my gosh, like I can go talk to my inner child. Oh my gosh, I can talk to my inner teenager. Oh my gosh, I can, forgive this person. Oh my gosh, I can let go of this story. There's an attitude that requires you to take on. An attitude is required for you to really, really do shadow work from an intentional space. And I don't want to speed you up, right? It's not like, oh, if you do this, then you can get through your shadow work first. Shadow work is life. Shadow play is life. Like you're always going to have a next layer of that thing. You're like, the next layer opens up and you meet yourself there. The next layer opens up, you meet yourself there. You don't want to get into a loop-de-loop of healing and feeling like there's always something to fix, something to, adjust, and something that's been broken about you. This is to say that how can I approach this from a place of play? This is so cool that I recognize that the way that I behave this way in my relationship comes from my father, or the way that I had a relationship with my foster parents, or the way that I had a relationship with, my caretakers, or the way that I had a relationship with this particular friend in middle school. And so all of these things, you don't think it impacts you in your adult life. You don't think that it impacts you in your late 20s and 30s and 40s. You don't think so because these things are underneath your conscious mind. Your conscious mind is just like, oh, everybody's this way and everybody's that way. That's just the way it is. And you're telling a story that is from this layer of awareness. But if we go into the next layer of awareness, which is in your subconscious mind, this is where that shadow stuff comes up. And so sometimes, because it's uncomfortable, our body is kind of trained to avoid discomfort. It comes from nervous system regulation. We'll talk about it in another time. It comes from your nervous system regulation. So anytime any of us feel some kind of discomfort, we have a natural tendency. So some people go into something known as hyperarousal, meaning that you get into fix-it mode and you're like, I gotta do all these things, I gotta fix all these things, I'm gonna go to all the healers and I gotta do this Reiki, and then I gotta do the sound healing, and then I gotta become a breathwork facilitator, and then I gotta do all these different things. You become hyper vigilant. Or you go into something known as hypoarousal, which is underneath, right? Hyper is too much. And then hypo is like that lower state where you're like, I guess I'll never heal. There will always be something to fix about me. So I guess why I'm gonna, keep going and keep bothering when it's never gonna pay off for me. So then you start to have this kind of doom kind of attitude around it. To approach shadow work is to now say, how do I not play into going up or down? How do I just stay in the middle? How can I allow these discomfort things, these uncomfortable things and uncomfortable awarenesses sometimes come? Even though I don't currently accept it, even though I don't like it, even though it makes me really, really uncomfortable, even though it makes me rearrange everything in my head around this particular thing or situation or person or circumstance, even if it makes me like have to do like so much reconfiguration in my head, how can I show up and really not accept, but just allow these different things to just come? So if this is an uncomfortable feeling, how can I welcome it? If this is a uncomfortable thought, how can I welcome it? Maybe I don't know what to do with it right now. Maybe I don't know what it means. Maybe it really blows my mind that this is like, oh my gosh, like that time when you just have that awareness and all of a sudden it's like, that changes how I think about all of this. Like that my perspective has just shifted because I just have this new information. And so that's basically what's happening when you tap into that subconscious mind, whether it is through somatic work and embodiment, which is something I recommend for you if that's not something you've explored before, whether it's through talking, whether it's through dancing, however, like I mentioned, like however it is that you're doing that, the subconscious is going to awaken. It's not just healing and thinking through your mind, because your mind can only heal through what your mind can conceive. And the rest of it happens in your physical body. Your physical body holds memory. It holds trauma. It holds information. Within your cells, you have embedded energy. So the whole field of somatic healing, like breathwork, I train breathwork facilitators, is all about understanding that. The whole understanding of the energy that's changing within you as you do your healing is all about that shadow. So like I always say to you, right? Like I always say to you, it's like you can approach things that are uncomfortable in two ways. One is like, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to ignore that this exists. But the caveat to that, it's going to show up for you again. It's going to come back out in another circle in another way. Because once things have raised from the subconscious into the conscious mind, you can't really put it back. It's like you took it off of the shelf. It's like it's no give backsies. It's here now. So the second part of it is let's allow. Let's see where this goes. And how can I shift my attitude instead of thinking of this as more work? Shadow work kind of has this connotation that's like it's supposed to be hard. There's nothing good about it. There's this darkness and I have to like be in the mud. It's like, oh my gosh, you're threatening me with depression and I don't like that. Like, can you change the way that you say it? So I really welcome you to think about it as shadow play. So when these things come up to the surface, you say, well, what do I do with that information? Is this useless information? Because maybe you decide that it is. You're just like, okay, so what? And let it go. Or you say, I'm going to sit with this and I'm not going to let it just like change and shift everything about me. I'm just going to let it kind of settle. So part of your healing journey is, that sun side, action, go do, like be active. Come to breathwork class. Sundays we have free breathwork class taught by our certified breathwork facilitators. Come to, your community, go participate in all these different places. And then a certain time, mind your own business and rest, right? It's not all about being in this like cycle and loop of healing, but that shadow work requires you to have that downtime. It requires you to say, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like this. And I'm still going to face these different things that are really meant for my elevation. That are really meant for my energetic up leveling. Yeah? So whether it is that you've gone through shadow work several times and you're like, this is old hat, these are foundationals, right? These are foundational reminders to say, like, there's always many ways to approach anything. And one way is to run, and another way is to not fight, but to just let it come. Let it arrive here. So let me know in the comments, are you in shadow work? Did this episode help you? And friends, remember, the world is your playground. Shadow play is your playground. Have fun with it, enjoy, and I will catch you next time.